السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. صدق الله العظيم وصدق مولانه النبي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك ومن الشاهدين ومن الشاكرين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, "O you who believe, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us the opportunity and the chance to come to His house to worship Him. And I say this reminder each and every week, so we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity. Truly, we don't know how fortunate we are to be able to get in our cars. Some of us may have nicer cars, middle-level cars, low-level cars, it doesn't matter. A car is a car, it gets you from point A to point B. We're fortunate to be able to get in our cars, come to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sit on this beautiful carpet, sit on those beautiful chairs, and peacefully offer our sunnah prayer. And worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We could be in Morocco, we could be in Libya, we could be in Afghanistan, we could be in Palestine, we could be in so many different places where we may not have these same opportunities because we may be dealing with a disaster, we may be dealing with loss of loved ones, we may be dealing with the janazah of a loved one, right? We could be busy in that, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it easy for us to come here to the masjid and to worship Him, right? And yesterday night we had a halaqah after salah, then we had a dua for all of the Muslims around the world who are suffering, and then we had another halaqah which we have every Thursday night, which alhamdulillah we had a good bit of brothers in yesterday. And after we were done with the halaqah, some brothers sat and they continued to ask questions. They were so interested in the topic of the halaqah, which is a very basic topic to be honest with you, which is the first part was Ashara Mubashara, the 10 promised Jannah, the Sahaba who were promised Jannah. We didn't even go into details of that, we just went over the names of the Sahaba. Then we went over Taqdeer and the day of Qiyamah. And all of these are very brief, we don't go into details of them, we go over them briefly, so we can cover the whole book inshallah over the course of maybe 4 to 5 months. It's a very brief book, it's actually a book, to be honest with you, for teenagers. But I believe when it comes to Islam, including myself, we're all teenagers. We're still learning, right? That's the learning age. That's when we're really making our kids focus on school. So in Islamic terms, we're all teenagers. We're all learning. We're trying to get to the next step, right? And so we went over these things. And one of the things, when I gave the halaqah right after Isha, one of the things which I discussed was the situation of the Muslims today, right? And we talk about this every so often, even last week, we touched upon it last week. But what we've seen over the last 10 days or so, what happened, they had 2 earthquakes in Afghanistan, so much so, approximately 2,000 to 3,000 people have passed away. They had 2 earthquakes within, I believe, 2 to 3 days. And there was a story of an old man, an elderly Afghan man, and he lost 11 of his household members, 11, right? An old man, he looked like he was in his 70s, late 70s. And subhanAllah, we don't know what these people are going through, right? We lose one loved one and we're like, it destroys us. Completely destroys us. Many of us over here, we probably lost 1 or 2 of our parents, and we know how that feels. Can you imagine? You're the old one and you lose everybody under you, like everybody who's younger than you. Abdul Malik, where was the earthquake? Where did it happen? Herat. So we should make dua for all of our brothers and sisters in Herat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them. You're not from Herat, right? No. Okay. Do you have any family there? No. But any friends or anybody there okay? Are they okay? Yeah. Inshallah. Okay, alhamdulillah. So what's it called? So we should make dua for all of the Muslims around the world. Now the question is, when these calamities keep happening, us living in the West comfortably, leading our lives, we may have some troubles. Everybody has some troubles, right? A lot of times people seem to think that my troubles are the most troubling troubles of all troubles, right? If that makes any sense. And everybody else's troubles are not that important. They're not that significant. For each and every person, their trouble may be their calamity. So we have to respect that, right? Never ever, if somebody's telling you, and I'm going to make a very asinine example, if somebody's telling you that their cat passed away and they're suffering, don't be like, oh, it was just a cat. You don't know what attachment they had to that cat, sad to say, but you don't know what attachment they had. You don't want to hurt them. Be like, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you, and may these troubles sometimes pass for you. You can say something very nice. We don't have to be negative when we talk to people. We can be positive, right? Obviously, when we're talking about Jannah and Jahannam, we prefer to tell people the glad tidings of Jannah and scare them from the Jahannam, but more so, try to entice people to go towards the Jannah, to go towards the good. But at the same time, living in the West, we have to realize we've gotten to a point where when we give basharat of Jannah, when we give the glad tidings of Jannah to people, it seems as though many times, sad to say, that there's no motivation towards going towards Jannah. We have to start by scaring the people, right? And I'm not talking about just scaring people, you're going to become a kafir, you're going to go to Jahannam and that's it, right? Scare people like, brother, don't do this, sister, don't do this. You know, this is not good for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like this. No, reminders like this. So I was listening to a Twitter space, right? And on this Twitter space, it was a Christian man from West Africa. He was talking. Brother Marcus heard me talk about this yesterday. And he was talking and he was saying something, and this is something we should all be very vigilant of, right? Alhamdulillah, we live in the West. We have the opportunity to practice our Islam in the West. We have all the opportunities. You want to come pray 5 times a day in the masjid? Nobody's going to come stop you. You want to have a halaqah after every salah, read some hadith after? Nobody can stop you. You want to bring a shaykh and he gives a talk in the masjid? Nobody can stop you in this country, right? Nobody can stop you. You can do whatever you want. You want to spend the day and night in the masjid? The shura's not going to stop you as long as you're doing ibadah. Now, if you're just camping and having fun, you know, they may say something like, don't do this. But if you want to do our ibadah and do good things, nobody's going to stop you in this country, right? There's countries, Muslim countries, where you're limited to what speech you can even give in a masjid. But this country, you're not limited into that even, right? Stay on the Quran and the Sunnah, nobody will stop you. So we live in this country, we're so privileged. They're talking in this Twitter space, and this individual is very respectful of Muslims, he's very respectful of practicing Christians, right? He's a Christian himself. And he says America is a melting pot, but you have to understand this is a very dangerous thing, right? When you go into a melting pot, a lot of times, even the qualities you possess, they either get deteriorated or they completely go away from you. So a lot of people, when they come from overseas, they look at homosexuality and things like this with a very, strong lens that this is something completely haram and we cannot get close to this, right? I'm using this as an example because this is what the man had said, right? We have to stay away from it. And he said this is the same for Christians and this is the same for Muslims who come from overseas. He's like, but when you get to America, slowly, those apprehensions and that defense mechanism, it withers away. Because you see, oh, it's not so bad, the people, they're nice. We shouldn't think of them so bad, things like that. We never say anybody is bad as a person, right? But if they're performing a haram act, something that goes against the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's haram. That's it. There's no argumentation there. So, but from a perspective, we're like, oh, they're not so bad. If our kids, they go to school, they teach them about that. It's just a lifestyle. We start thinking like this. It's like, this is very dangerous. We have to stay away from this. And this is a Christian individual talking, and he's talking to the Muslims and the Christians in the Twitter space. And he's like, and currently, all of the propaganda going around the world against Muslims, and he's talking from a Christian perspective. We have to be very careful of this, that we don't buy into this, and we have to educate our kids not to buy into these things. Otherwise, they'll start thinking negatively of Muslims. It's a Christian individual talking, because he's lived with Muslims, and he knows how well-being and how thoughtful Muslims are of the people around them. That there's a guy by the name of, what is his name? Yeah, it's Van Jones. Van Jones, right? He's the CNN guy. You don't know? Okay. Van Jones, he's a CNN guy. He's a bald guy like me right now. I got my head shaved, bald like me. So he went and they were having a panel discussion a few years ago, and they were saying that, living beside Muslims is so dangerous and stuff like that. He's like, do you know the average education level of a Muslim in the United States? And it was something like a bachelor's degree at least, right? And on average, most Americans non-Muslim Americans only possess like a high school diploma, right? He's like, if If your kids hang out with Muslim kids, your kids are more likely to acquire a college education, because Muslim families, they aspire for higher level education, right? So much so that I know many people, including myself, who have bachelor's degrees hanging on the wall and they're not even using them. I have a bachelor's degree. I was going for a master's. I did, due to personal circumstances, I never completed it due to my mother's sickness. But we have degrees that are hanging on the walls, many Muslims, right? And we're not even using them. I know in Gastonia, where I'm from, there's many brothers who have, advanced engineering degrees, but they're doing huge businesses and they don't even care about those degrees. So if you want your kids to get to the next level when it comes to education, you're better off having Muslim neighbors. And this is a non-Muslim individual saying this. So the reverberation of what Muslims are doing as far as education goes, everybody knows it. They were having a discussion on philanthropy, that who is more likely to give a donation when something bad happens. They said, Muslims, as soon as something bad happens, their wallets open up. As soon as something bad happens, their wallets open up. They're worried about the people around the world. They're worried about the people around the world, right? When we give a sadaqah donation, and we're not like, hey, make sure only the Muslims get it. Like if we send it to, like, for example, Pakistan. Pakistan has, for example, I'm using Pakistan as an example. Pakistan has a population, there's about 3 to 4% Christian, 1% Hindu, stuff like that. Like the disaster, the flood happens, right? And they're giving out food packages. We're not going to be like, no, only make sure the Muslims get my money. No, we're going to make sure everybody is fed, everybody is taken care of. Now when we give zakat, we have to make sure only Muslims are given out of that, right? This is a responsibility of the people and the organizations which distribute the funds. MashaAllah, Ali Bhai is back. He went for Umrah, we can see it. I didn't go for Umrah, but I got the same haircut as him. What's it called? But we make sure that everybody is taken care of. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, right? He sees an elderly Yahud, elderly Jewish man, right? Who's begging in the streets. So why are you begging in the streets? You're supposed to be taken care of. You're supposed to be taken care of. He takes him to the Bayt al-Mal. He tells the administrator, make sure this man is taken care of. That this is an insult upon the Muslims that he's not taken care of. He's paid his jizya for all these years. Why is he begging in the streets? This is the attitude of the Muslim. This is the attitude of the Muslim, right? But the problem today is with the Muslims, us, myself. When a calamity befalls the Ummah, it doesn't affect our heart even in the slightest. It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't make us cry. Have our hearts become that hard that when a calamity, when we see families drowning in Libya, that it doesn't bring a tear to our eyes? When we see houses destroyed, them pulling bodies out of the rubble in Morocco, that it doesn't even upset us in the slightest? That these are our brothers and sisters in Islam. And if they're not Muslim, they're our brothers and sisters in humanity. Does it not hurt us in the slightest bit? In Afghanistan, families being completely destroyed, being displaced due to earthquakes. Does it not hurt us? Does it not make us think twice of what's going on? Are we going to go about our day? There was a masjid, I'm not going to take the name of the masjid. We asked them for an opportunity to fundraise, right? We were going to do a fundraiser. And it's not in the city. I'm not calling it any masjid. And we asked them for a fundraiser. And they said no, right? And they said, okay. They let us come last year. This year, whoever the administrator was said, no. We don't allow any organizations to come fundraise at all. And then they sent out a notification today. Come tomorrow morning, or tonight, 4:30 a.m. to the masjid to come watch the cricket match between Pakistan and India. We're more worried in making more accommodations for a cricket match. Honestly speaking, sometimes I'll check the scores, but I don't care for cricket or any sports anymore. I don't watch them like that. But we're making so much accommodation for a silly cricket match. If somebody wins the Cricket World Cup, does it benefit you, Brother Najib, if India wins? Brother Chima, does it benefit you if Pakistan? We don't get any benefit. Rather, we probably spend money on watching the match and having a party, and so nobody benefits out of it. But we're more worried about a cricket match than we are about the brothers and sisters suffering overseas. This is that state we're in. How often do we give $1 to our children and tell them, here's the donation box right there, put it in there. Somebody will come to the masjid and pray and you will get hasanat. How often are we reminding our children of that? Not that often. But for a cricket match, we get dressed up in green and blue or whatever our color of the country are. Bangladesh is green and red, and Pakistan is green and yellow, and India is yellow, blue and white or something like that. And we put face paint on, and we'll wear a hat, and we'll order a custom jersey from online, and everything. Spend hundreds of dollars on a cricket match, right? But in the same situation, what's happening overseas, are we encouraging our kids to do the same thing? No. There's a brother, his kids, they finish the Quran with looking, and they're having a small gathering. And his kids, they sent a request that for their Quran Khatam gathering, they don't want people to give them money, they want people to donate money for the people who are suffering overseas. And these are young kids. One kid's like 10 and one is 8. The hearts of the children are pure. We need to make our hearts like this. The hearts of the kids are good, they're clean. We need to make our hearts like this. So that when a calamity befalls us as an ummah, we feel it. We feel it. We're not just glazing over it, right? SubhanAllah, we've been seeing the videos from overseas, from what's happening in Palestine, and I saw a video of a father running out of a building, and it really hurt me. He's running out of a building, his daughter, it's almost the same age as my daughter, SubhanAllah, is dead, lifeless body. He's running out, he's crying. I can't take it. My daughter's almost the same age. And it struck me, what if that happened to me? What if my daughter passed away? She couldn't say Baba anymore. She couldn't call out to me, and I couldn't play with her. Would it make any effect on my heart or not? Would it make me more concerned about the Muslims overseas or not? You watched the videos of people pulling their family members out of the rubble in Morocco. If that was my child, would I cry? Would it make a difference in my life? If that was my child they pulled out of the flood waters in Libya, would it make a difference in my life? Would I cry? If that was my family member in Afghanistan that they're pulling out of the rubble, would I cry about that? Would I be hurting about that? Would it make any difference in my life? Would it make me more of an abid, more of a worshipper, one who comes towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Why does it take something to directly happen to us or to even think about it to make a change in our life and how we're leading life? We're living in one of the incredible amounts of inflation. But alhamdulillah, we're still surviving in this country. Right? We're still surviving in this country. We still have enough money to put into our 401ks. We still have enough money to go on vacation. Still have enough money for all of this. But we're only worried about the 401k of this dunya, but not the 401k of the akhirah. The one that will keep on giving and giving and giving. Are we like Hazrat Usman radiallahu anhu? When the caravans come into the city of Medina and people are willing to pay absurd amounts of money for the caravan, and he says, no, it's all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or are we like the one man in the story of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, that when they had the bread, he kept eating it himself. And at the end, Hazrat Isa alayhi salam just gave it all to him and he turned it into gold. Are we like that man who was so greedy, who wanted to keep everything for himself? We need to find the middle ground, so that we give regularly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when a calamity occurs, when we see somebody has passed away overseas, it doesn't matter if they're a relative or they're from our country. Remember, this is a ummah. This is a nation. And the Prophet ﷺ, throughout the course of his life, throughout the course of his nubuwah, he was teaching us, it doesn't matter if you're from Germany, it doesn't matter if you're from Zimbabwe, it doesn't matter if you're from Pakistan. And these are all new creations, these nations like this. Before, people only used to be from tribes. It doesn't matter if you're from India, it doesn't matter if you're from Sri Lanka, it doesn't matter where you're from. You're all one. Yesterday I was with my barber and we were talking. He's not a Muslim, he's a Christian. And he was like, Asad, if you cut my arm and we cut your arm, the blood that comes out is going to be red from both arms. The blood that runs inside of each and every one of us is red. Brother Najib doesn't have blue blood. I don't have green blood. Brother Marcus doesn't have purple blood. Our blood is all the same color. There might be different types from a medical perspective when it comes to those needs, but when it comes down to it, the color is the same. We all bleed the same blood. We all drink the same water. We all eat the same food. But how come we're not worried about somebody who has nothing on their plate while we're throwing away historically large amounts of food as a country every single day? They say some crazy amount, like you could fill up, my numbers may be wrong, I might have seen an old statistic. You could fill up, they say the amount of food that Americans throw away, you could fill up, I think they said 400 football fields. 400 football fields, and these are old numbers. This is how much food we throw away as Americans. Our kids, forget the kids, ourselves, we don't like the flavor a little bit, right? There's not enough masala, enough, what is masala? Spices. There's not enough spices, throw it away. I'm not going to eat this. Let me tell you something. There's people out there who would eat dry, old, moldy bread because they don't even have anything better than that. There's people out there right now who are drinking water which would be considered sludge water in this country because they don't have anything better to drink. This is the best that they have to drink. And they don't complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live in this country, we're always complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I want a Tesla, I want a Ferrari, I want this, I want that. How come I don't have it? And these people, they're going through all of this on a daily basis. And they say, Ya Allah, take care of us. These are the prayers that they make. So this, everything that's happening on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, for myself included, it should be a wake-up call that I'm not thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enough. And I'm not doing enough to take care of the Muslims in this country, to take care of the non-Muslims in this country, to take care of the Muslims overseas, and to take care of the non-Muslims overseas. You know, when the Muslims took care of the non-Muslims, they entered into Islam by 10-fold, by 20-fold, by 100-fold. And even if they didn't enter into Islam, they cried when the Muslims left their lands. Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu, where was he? Do we know where he was? Where did he go? Egypt. When he left Egypt, the Christians cried. They cried. The Archbishop of that time, Benjamin, he made dua for Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, I saw a video, it was by a non-Muslim. Hazrat Khalid bin Walid radiallahu anhu, wherever he went, he didn't lose a battle. You know what this guy said? He's not Muslim. He said, if you wanted to be a champion, the best champion of all, they didn't call you the greatest champion. They called you Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu. And the non-Muslims alike had respect for the Muslims. And we've fallen out of the Richter scale of respect for people because we went away from our ways. Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu taking care of the Yahud. Not one, not two, not three. So many of them. Hazrat Amr ibn al-As radiallahu anhu entering into Egypt and promising that no innocent will be hurt. Don't worry, we're not here to hurt anybody. We're here to liberate you. And the Christians making dua that he liberates the lands of more Christians. This is what we were. What have we descended to? We're more worried about going to the nicest steakhouse and eating the nicest steak, whether it's halal or not. You know, these are the things we're concerned about. Where can I get the best $100 a pound filet mignon or something like that? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. May He protect us. And may He protect our brothers and sisters overseas who are suffering on a daily basis. And may He forgive us all for our sins of omission and commission. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.